Hello, my name is Annette Pescher and I'm Director of Emotional Logic. We are a behavioral insight agency. Thank you very much for attending our session today. What an unprecedented year we are in. So much change around us with regards to consumer behavior. We are still not achieving 2019 footfall levels at most shopping destinations. Shoppers are limiting the amount of time that they're spending in the supermarket. And we also have seen a huge swing towards online shopping, where the dynamics are very different to in-store. So converting shoppers has never been more important than it is now. So today I would like to share with you behavioral principles that can help you influence shoppers in-store and also online. I have selected some examples so that you can see how it works and the benefits that it delivers. We will be focusing on System 1, and we will be looking at how your unconscious makes purchase decisions and how we can influence those purchase decisions now and in the future. I hope you will find this session very interesting and useful. Throughout the session, you can ask questions by using the chat function that you can see on your screen. Emotional Logic has been delivering behavioral research since 2007. So this is long before it became fashionable, and our purpose as an organization is to make behavioral research practical and actionable so that specialist techniques are easily integrated into your research program and plans. We have a very unique approach to behavioral research, which works in harmony with how humans really make decisions. Our clients include multinational household names, challenger brands, and smaller brands. They work with us because our approach delivers measurable financial returns and is a risk-free and affordable way to apply new emerging tools and techniques at any time. So what is our session covering today? Emotional Logic conducts research across FMCG, food and non-food, on and offline. So the principles that I am introducing today will cover and can be applied in all of those areas. We will first be looking at what is behavioral science, a brief introduction. This will be followed by why should I apply behavioral science? This will show us the benefits of applying behavioral science principles. And finally, how can I apply behavioral principles? I have some practical examples of how to apply behavioral principles in real life. I'm pretty sure you've heard of System 1 and System 2. Processing information takes energy, and as humans, we are programmed really to conserve energy. That is why we often use shortcuts and biases to make decisions. Otherwise, we would spend hours on websites and in stores. Those shortcuts are System 1 thinking, fast, emotionally driven reactions that we employ when we can't or don't want to spend too much time thinking. The less involved somebody is in a purchase, the more likely they are to use a System 1 shortcut in their decision making. And that means that System 1 decisions play more of a leading role when buying a chocolate bar compared to buying a car, for example. However, they both are involved in all decisions that we make. System 1 and System 2 work together and communicate with each other all the time. It is important that we understand those unconscious biases and shortcuts because they make up to 90% of the cognitive processing of consumers. When it comes to shopping, using behavioral insight to optimize your site, your store, or your brand's position within the store can have huge benefits. Our own research shows that optimized displays can attract 3 times the amount of attention and are 5 times more engaging than a display delivered with traditional research. This ultimately gives you an up to 10 times bigger pool of shoppers that you can then convert. And there are also behavioral triggers that you can apply to achieve the sales conversion. So now let's have a look at some example behavioral principles and how to apply them. Of course, there are more principles than we have time for in half an hour, so this is an introduction to some of the most commonly used ones. Fact is, we are more likely to buy when we are excited. Excitement increases impulse purchasing. This type of display, for example, is not very emotionally involving. It's been developed for the rational mind. When we ask consumers how they browse, they usually ask for categories, they ask for simple, clean lines, and for order. We've been doing in-store shopper research using eye tracking for over a decade, and I can tell you that that is not how people browse. They don't use an orderly fashion, and they don't use categories. So this type of display is not a very hard-working display. It will work if we have salespeople on site or for shoppers who are maybe making a repeat purchase and have already bought into your brand. Remember that kid in a sweet shop type of feeling. That's the feeling that we want to instill in shoppers. Now, in order to get that, we need to excite shoppers, and that comes from using colors, smells, textures. We want to invite browsing, we want trial, we want engagement. One example of this in action is ethical retailer Lush, who uses all of those sensory inputs. At the end of the day, sensory stimulation means sales. More and more shopping is done online, and this area is where websites really fail to deliver. The emotional engagement. Most websites are devoid of emotions, and we need to add some emotional context to increase impulse purchasing and involvement. Here's an example of how this can be done. Waitrose are breaking up their display of products with imagery of meals. This really adds the much needed emotional engagement. It will also lead to trial of new products and increase in basket spend. But we need to ensure that we get the right emotions across, and this will vary between brands and categories. So you will need to understand the shopper goals and mindsets in order to truly benefit from this, and behavioral research can help you get this right. The more you can involve shoppers' senses, the more likely it is that they will buy something that they had not planned. The second behavioral bias at play during shopping is the scarcity effect. Something that is rare is valued more than something that is widely available. This is one of the drivers behind panic buying. You may not want that last toilet roll, but once you see there's only one left, suddenly you think you should buy it. The opposite, however, is also true. Our stores are getting bigger and discounting has become more prevalent at the same time. Is that a coincidence? What happens psychologically when people see a huge display is this. The perceived value of the individual item reduces, and shoppers believe it is lower quality and they are less likely to accept a higher price. Most of this effect is unconscious. Being faced with too much choice also makes it harder for shoppers to make a decision. The volume is overwhelming, so they are less likely to browse and tend to fall back on what they have bought before. They go on autopilot. So what can you do to increase desirability? Breaking up the display into smaller chunks. This will really help make the value of the individual item appear higher, but it also involves shoppers more, it engages them, and it helps them to interact with the product. You can also highlight hero products. Make them feel special. Use bestseller labels or use boxes around them. Make some of the products feel a bit more special, and that will really help interaction and it will really help with the browsing process rather than being faced with an entire page of very similar looking products. Ultimately, applying this principle correctly means you can increase your margin. So it is really something that is worth looking into. But don't go too far with reducing your range and display, because there is a second behavioral effect that also comes into play when it comes to product quantities. And that's the fear of missing out. We do not like to lose out. Shoppers are unlikely to buy unless they feel they've seen a sufficient number of options. If you don't have a sufficient number of options, some shoppers might walk away. But what is a sufficient number of options? Are we back to having to have a huge display? No, because choice is actually not about the number of items that you have, but about the degree of difference between them. A smaller display can give the illusion of choice by showing very different options in terms of color, shape, size, and texture. Let's compare a couple of websites. I've done a search here for A4 notebook on Staples and Amazon website. Now I appreciate Amazon can stock a lot more, but Staples do have colorful and different shapes of notebooks on page 3. On page 1, it's mostly variations of black and navy notebooks. Even if I want to buy a black notebook, this subconsciously sends a message of that there's not a lot of choice, and that might make some people go to another website just because they're not sure that all the options are on display here. So if you have variety on your website, show that variety on page 1 so that people feel that they can make a decision there and then. Give people that illusion of choice through variety and difference. Show them very different options. There is actually a large number of specific effects that our team have discovered over the years, and I've grouped them all together here under attention. Certain hooks work extremely well to get shopper attention, and getting attention is one of the critical elements of sales. One example of getting attention is using faces. Humans are programmed to look at faces, so using faces will always work. Once you have the attention, you can then lead it to the products that you want. One example of this is cosmetics pictures. When we ask shoppers, less than 50% will admit or remember that they were looking at the faces. Yet our research revealed that over 90% do in fact look at the images throughout the product selection process. It is a critical component of buying, so it is important that displays are optimized based on what shoppers actually do and not what they say they do. People don't know how they browse, and the more you know about this process, the better you can nudge them to buy. The effect of faces also works on websites. If you include eye tracking in your usability tests, you can clearly see that effect. Another element that gets attention is irregularity. Our eye goes where we have a disruption in pattern. So if there is a break in pattern, then the eye will be led to this area. The product next to that pattern break receives more attention than other similar products. So in this example, the products in the blue box will receive more attention because they're around the area of a break in pattern. There are many more ways in which you can influence shopper attention. We can help you optimize your display online and offline. One more effect I would like to mention is zero risk bias. Tests have shown that people prefer the risk-free option even when other options may be better overall. Let me explain. So here, for example, we have 2 biscuit packs. One has reduced sugar by 50%, while the other is free from refined sugars. When we look at the sugar content, the one who has reduced sugar is actually lower in sugar content overall. So the rational decision for someone who is looking to minimize sugar would be to go for the option on the left. However, tests show that a large proportion of consumers, and in some cases even the majority, will actually choose the option free from refined sugars, even though the sugar content may be higher overall. This is because refined sugars represent a risk which has been completely eliminated, zero risk. It's illogical, yes, but this is what shoppers do. So how can you apply this effect? Remove risks from your products and shout about them, even if they are not the main purchase driver. Another application is the money-back guarantee for a product trial. If we want people to try a new product, we can remove the risk by offering a money-back guarantee. For e-commerce, the option is the free return. Several studies have shown that websites are better off to offer a free return and increase their prices to make up for the costs. Free returns have been proven to increase sales and profit. 52% of shoppers say they are unlikely to use a retailer again if they are charged for returning goods. There are many more behavioral principles that impact on shopper choices. Knowing them will help you attract their attention, engage them, and influence purchase decisions. Let's now have a look at where behavioral insight is required. I am sure you already have research data for at-shelf decisions, but behavioral insight can add another layer of deeper understanding that will help you nudge and influence in-store decisions better. Behavioral science can also aid optimization of your shelf position and adjacencies to maximize buy-in. You can build a lot of triggers and nudges into store fixtures that will help you increase engagement and impulse buying. And store windows are a key driver for footfall into store, and behavioral insight can help you make them work harder for you. Shopping in a convenience store is very different to a hypermarket, and shoppers are in a different mindset. Therefore, different behavioral principles apply. We can help you ensure your display or brand works in any context. Behavioral insight helps you understand how shoppers end up on your site and what different goals they have so you can optimize your pages. We can also help you optimize the user experience and build in those critical nudges to maximize buy-in and sales conversion. And don't underestimate the power of the imagery for product display. They send out messages to the unconscious mind of the shopper. Our behavioral insight can help you use images to maximum effect. Finally, your product's packaging. It has to fulfill three very different functions. It has to attract attention, engage shoppers, and finally convert. All require completely different behavioral nudges, and we can help you build those into your packs, whether you are selling biscuits or lawnmowers. Academic research has already found a number of key behavioral principles. Our own decade-long research over categories and countries has amassed a database of tried and tested effects, things that we know work. We can help you apply those existing behavioral principles to maximize sales. Team workshops, currently conducted remotely, introduce your team to behavioral science. They help you apply principles to your category and start to shift your team's thinking patterns to increase awareness of behavioral influences. Our consultancy helps you solve existing problems with your products, pages, packaging, and display by simply applying behavioral thinking. This will significantly improve the performance in those areas with very little effort. But there is still so much to discover, so for most of our clients, we are also conducting primary research. Using a mix of traditional psychology and neuroscience tools, we find new behavioral principles, the ones specific to your store, your brand, and your category. And the great news is that many of the effects can be measured through remote or online research. There are a lot of tools available that help you identify and apply behavioral science. The first is eye tracking. This shows us clearly what grabs shoppers' attention and is a key area where asking consumers simply will not work, as the majority of this process is not remembered. If we want to find out what drives attention, eye tracking is a great tool. Biometric measurements can identify emotional reactions that consumers have that even they are unaware of. This can help us measure how emotionally involved they are, and as we saw earlier, this is a key element for nudging them into buying. Finally, choice experiments. Those can help us identify on what basis consumers choose between products and service packages, which is often not at all the rational consideration that we believe it to be. This is really important. If we want to develop nudges, we need to identify on which basis people make decisions in the first place. So there is a number of ways in which you can identify behavioral principles that will then help us to develop nudges and triggers to build into your website or in-store display or product packaging. Whether it is online or in-store, you have the opportunity to influence shopper behavior. The more you understand about the behavioral biases that people apply, as well as category-specific biases that exist, the more effective your strategies will be. Behavioral insight has helped many of our clients get better results. If you feel that you could benefit from this, then let's continue the conversation. Let's have a Zoom chat and let us know which areas of your business you are focusing on and find out how behavioral insight can help you now. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have further questions, please use the chat function or contact me via email. I hope you found this session interesting and useful, and thank you very much for joining Emotional Logic today.